Mysteries that remained unsolved. Despite the fact that scientists are tirelessly constantly solving and discovering something, the mysteries in the history of mankind do not seem to decrease. Many mysteries and unsolved secrets still remain in the past of our civilization. Science is applying more and more modern methods and technologies, history is gradually opening its curtains, but even billions of research budgets and brilliant researchers still cannot answer some very interesting questions, cannot explain the origin of some people, or where the whole state has disappeared. Was there an Atlantis? Atlantis is the most famous of the legendary continents of the ancient world. Plato wrote about this in detail. It was noted in his writings of Herodotus, Diodorus, Posidonius, Strabo and Proclus. According to Plato, the island was located to the west of the Pillars of Hercules, facing the mountains of Atlanta. During a strong earthquake, he went underwater in one day. This happened around 9500 BC. Atlantis was searched all over the world, from Gibraltar to Peru and Brazil, but today there is not one scientifically based theory about its location. Who built the pyramids? No matter how hard modern reconstructors and scientists try to unravel the mystery of the pyramids, convincing versions of how they were built have not yet been found. Some experts say that the pyramids were built from ready-made blocks cut into the rock, others, Joseph de Villovitz, claim that the blocks were made already on the construction site from a mixture of crushed stone and geopolymer concrete based on limestone. The incredible complexity of the process calls into question all the possibilities. The question of who built the pyramids, slaves or civilian workers, and how many of them there were also remains open. Where did the Maya go? Civilization was one of the most developed, but when the conquerors came, only scattered Maya forest tribes remained, underdeveloped and not representing a serious force. They lived in huts and did not build majestic temples with palaces. Where did the Maya go? The mystery has not yet been solved. There are many versions, from epidemics and wars to alien interventions, but none of them has been proven. Who were the Sumerians? The world community learned about the Sumerians only in the middle of the 19th century, when scientists proved that there was a state in Mesopotamia whose age reaches 6,000 years. It was from him that Babylon and Assyria inherited their culture. It is now unknown where the Sumerians came from in Mesopotamia. It is assumed that this was a mountainous region, since the words country and mountain are spelled the same in Sumerian. It also had to be an area with advanced technology. The Sumerians were pioneers in many fields of knowledge, from astronomy to physics. Presumably, but it has not yet been proven that it could be South India. Did the Vikings discover America? The Norman version of the discovery of America is being expressed more and more often, but the Columbian version remains the official one. What is interesting in both cases is that both times America was discovered by mistake. A Scandinavian merchant named Bjarni Herjulfsson lost his way during a storm and Columbus went to India. There are much fewer materials on the Norman version than on the Columbian one, and not all of them are considered authentic, which greatly undermines its reliability. Why did Neanderthals become extinct? The genomes of humans and Neanderthals are approximately 99.5% identical, but this does not mean that we descended from Neanderthals. With monkeys, our genome similarity is 98%. Contrary to popular belief that Neanderthals were semi-savage, this is not the case. It was a very advanced evolutionary branch, they even knew how to make musical instruments. The versions of his disappearance are as follows. Assimilation, the Cro-Magnon genocide, the Ice Age, which they could not stand because they could not make unnecessary clothes. Where did the Scythians disappear to? Scythia is considered the first state to disappear as a result of the Great Migration of peoples. The Scythians fought with the Sarmatians, Philip, and Alexander the Great, with the Goths and Huns. It is believed that after the defeat of the latter, most of the Scythians died and many joined the victorious army. In history, for this reason, there is a lot of confusion with the late definition of the Scythians. Some historians attribute Chechens and Ossetians to the descendants of the Scythians. Did King Arthur exist? Almost all of us have known King Arthur since childhood. The cycle about King Arthur was a bestseller in the Middle Ages and has become one of the cult phenomena of popular culture in our time. Some critics claim that all literature in the fantasy genre comes from Arthurian. However, the authenticity of Arthur's existence as a separate historical figure has yet to be proved. Probably, the real prototype of Arthur had a different name, or it is a collective image of several prototypes. Why did the plague mow down Europe? There are many incomprehensible things in the history of the European plague epidemic, which literally mowed down Europe in the Middle Ages. Therefore, it was not possible to determine the wild rodents known as such, whose distribution areas also extend far to the north. There is no answer to the question why the Black Death pandemic struck Europe in the same order and over the same territories and at the same time as the first pandemic, the Justinian plague, 531 to 589. How could their foci flare up synchronously in very vast territories of Europe, for example? The plague epidemics in Moscow and London in the middle of the 17th century. Who built Stonehenge? The mystery surrounding the megalithic Stonehenge complex has not yet been solved. According to one version, it was built by Druids, according to another Celts, according to the third ancient Britons, according to the fourth Merlin himself. There are people who say that Stonehenge is a hoax, and at the same time it is not known exactly how Stonehenge was built. During the restoration work on the complex, which began in 1901 and was not completed until 1964, the stones were moved using cranes, but such devices did not exist in the Middle Ages. Who were the Hyksos? They are called shepherd kings. During her reign, a two-wheeled chariot appeared in Egypt, which changed the tactics of military operations. Little is known about her. The Hyksos are nomadic tribes, the lords of the desert highlands, who invaded Egypt around 1700. In front of me. They ruled it for more than 100 years and even founded an entire dynasty of Hyksos kings. Hyksos were not born until 1587 BC. Expelled from Egypt by the founder of the 18th dynasty Ahmes. The question of who exactly the Hyksos were, where they came from, and where they disappeared to remains open. What was the reason for the Great Migration of Europe? The Great Migration destroyed the ancient world, building the Middle Ages on its ruins. Despite many versions, it is still unclear what was the main reason for the barbaric movement. As usual in such cases, scientists talk about the sum of factors. Firstly, about the overpopulation of Scandinavia, secondly, about the change in climatic conditions, cold and high humidity, and finally, about the shift of social strata. The tribal elite coming to power was interested in profit. The best target was the Roman Empire. Who sponsored the Bolsheviks? The question of who financed the revolution in Russia is still debatable. For a long time, the main version was that the German General Staff played a primary role in financing, but today more and more historians are inclined to believe that there was support from both England and Wall Street, and even old believers who kept close trade contacts with British industrialists.